Peace and blessings, family. I pray that all is well. How are you all doing? Thanks for joining me for another live session. Welcome to our new and returning listeners. Well, I can say it's never a dull day in this country. It is never a dull day. And honestly, it's not just here. Some of you have sent me videos about strange things happening all over the world. But folks act like they can't see the writing on the wall. They just want to continue on like, oh, this will all be over when this one is out of office, thinking that, we'll return to our normal. I don't think they understand that there is no more normal. There is no more normal. A shift is taking place in the spiritual realm and in the natural. And we can see that these things are happening right before our eyes. I believe this session is going to fit right in with our topic on Edom and how he merged with the Japhetic imperial system. We know that the four empires in the book of Daniel show that these beasts will merge to become a unified system in the last days. And we need to be able to recognize how it operates. But what remains consistent is the attacks against the children of Israel. And it's one of the most important ways to identify who they are and how they strategize against us. But too many of our people are clueless. And sometimes you just scratch your head like, can you not see what's going on? An enemy will always look for your weaknesses and use them against you. Scripture already told us that we are destroyed because we lack knowledge. Well, that's one weakness right there. So, in order to change that, you need to increase in knowledge. You need to learn. You need to get the word down in your heart. You need to meditate on the word. And also, not knowing who you are and letting others define you is another weakness. It's a major obstacle because the oppressors told us who we were as a people. They focused on what happened in 1619. Basically, they want us to only see ourselves as slaves, their subjects, their property. The diabolical plan to try to erase our history before 1619 and enacting laws to make it illegal for our ancestors to read allow them to basically rewrite history. But the essence of who you are is not just about a color. Who we are and were before 1619 is why we are hated. It's the reason for the subjugation and the oppression. Now, for those who tuned in to the last session, you heard me talk about the map of Negro land. This was a vast area. The term Negro land was a European label applied to areas considered populated by people of darker skin, often translated from Arabic Bilad al-Sudan, land of the blacks. But notice that the area included Timbuktu and Mali. Look at the blue arrow. It says Negroland and Guinea with the European settlements, explaining what belongs to England, Holland, and Denmark. They basically use their advanced weapons to steal, kill, and destroy. And religion was the glue that held it all together. Religion. That's another thing. I don't know that we can call it a weakness. I mean, in terms of how it was used as a weapon against us, we can certainly see, that it was a weakness. Um, from the other standpoint, when we understand that the Most High didn't give us a religion, then yes, that would make sense. It was a weakness in our case because they forced a religion on us, a religion that they seemed to benefit from greatly. A lot of customs and ways that were not aligned with the ways of the Most High. So, boy, do we have a lot that we need to come to overcome. I tell you, Pastor Kelly, how you doing? I see you. I see you. Um, I'm just, I'm amazed. I don't want to give them too much credit, but man, they were master manipulators. Everything they could use against us, they used it. They used it. You were never supposed to find out what happened to you prior to that. That there were various successful and prosperous kingdoms in Africa long before the Caucasians left the Caucasus Mountains. Now look at the blue arrow and you see what the cartographers wrote on the map. The inhabitants are esteemed to be very rich, not just rich, very rich. So as we go through this, we're going to look for patterns because we are told that you are judged by looking at the fruit. The actions and behavior speak louder than words. And we're going to dig into this. You all know I like to dig a little deeper. I want to start with some information from a meeting that was supposed to be censored. And I think a lot of you have seen this video. It was said to be a private meeting um, where this woman was saying that the major problem with the Ish people is the young generation of Black youth, you all. So, for those who have not seen it, listen to this.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the Black community. The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the Black community.
Now, did you hear what that woman said? That's their major problem. Imagine that. Why are the youth here their problem? So, if they felt that young Black men are a major problem for them, they more than likely felt a need to come up with a plan to rectify the problem, right? We're going to look at this from Black Agenda Report. It's entitled Censored Documentary Exposes Israel's Attack on Black Lives Matter. I'm not promoting Black Lives Matter. I mean, the tagline is great, but hey, as I said before, there are certain folks that we just cannot unite with them, not around certain issues. But you can see the panel that participated in the discussion, and her comment just did not make sense to me. So I was trying to dig a little deeper to see, what would cause her to even say that. Her name is Judith Farnai Shore. She's or was an Israeli consul official. And she says Black American youth are Israel's biggest problem. And I was like, okay, what exactly is she talking about? Because that's just not making sense to me. It says previously unreleased footage from Al Jazeera's censored investigative documentary, The Lobby USA, shows Israeli diplomats complaining about the Black Lives Matter problem and boasting about their cultivation of established Black civil rights activists as pro Israel proxies. Just pause and think on that. The footage also reveals how the Israel lobby orchestrated the sudden cancellation of a Black Lives Matter fundraiser at a New York City nightclub. So it goes on to say that it organized as a coalition of the most hardline Israel lobby groups in the US, from Christians United for Israel to the Israel on Campus Coalition. The IAC functions as the right wing pro Likud supplement to AIPAC. Now, that should tell you everything you need to know right there. Just FYI, IAC is the Israeli American Council. Well, who are they? It's a major US based nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving and strengthening Israeli and Jewish identities, fostering the American Jewish community, and deepening the relationship between the United States and Israel. And yet, they were very interested in our young Black men. It goes on to say that with a massive cash infusion from pro Israel oligarchs such as Sheldon Adelson and Adam Milstein, the IAC emerged as one of the most powerful arms of Israel lobbying in America. I'll drop down to the statement by this woman, Judith, where she says the major problem with Israel is the young generation of the Black community. She said Black Lives Matter starts there. It starts there. Okay, what is really going on with this? It says Shore boasted that she and other government officials were taking decisive measures to drive a wedge between established Black community leadership and the new generation gravitating towards Black Lives Matter. Now, listen to what she said. This is important. She said, I had last week a sit down dinner at my house for 40 people, which I consider the leadership of the Black community, the Israeli diplomat recalled. Question: what in the world would young Blacks have to do with Israel, though? They don't live there. But this is telling us that those folks made it their business to know what's going on with our people, and they are using their power, money, and influence to push their agenda. Let's go on. It says many very important people were there. They can be part of our doing and activities. Just pause right there, family. She's basically saying that there are those in our community who can be used to carry out their agenda. Didn't we just see that last week with Jeffries? Didn't we just see that? So why are these folks so concerned about young Black men? Well, it's because they don't want to link efforts against police violence here to the Palestinian struggle, because they say it would disrupt community relations with the Ish people. They were upset that the Black Lives Matter movement wanted to encourage the end of their occupation of Palestinian lands, and they feared losing the support of Black communal leadership. In other words, what's happening over there with the Palestinians is not your business, is what they're saying to us. So don't try to link the two causes. But please tell me why that would prompt her to say that the major problem, look, not just a problem, the major problem is with the young generation. Does it have anything to do with the awakening? What do you think? Do you think it has something to do with the awakening, family? Now we need to talk about their influence and how it impacts us. Take a look at this from the Real News Network. It's talking about prisons and policing. Well, guess who is influencing law enforcement here? The title says Prisons and Policing. Deadly Exchange. U.S. sends hundreds of law enforcement to Israel to learn worse practices from IDF. Look at the subtitle. Though police exchange programs or through police exchange programs, local and federal officials travel to Israel for training that advocates say further militarizes the police and exacerbates harm to marginalized communities. Who are we talking about there when you're talking about marginalized communities? This comes from News Magazine of the Islamic Movement Crescent International, and it's confirming what we just read. It says, U.S. police learned their brutal tactics in Israel, says Amnesty International USA. Not only in the US, but people worldwide have expressed revulsion at the horrific manner in which George Floyd was, you know what happened to him, by Chauvin, the former Minneapolis policeman. Where did US law enforcement agents acquire these skills? You can see the other word. We reproduce below a report by Amnesty International USA that points to the deep and ongoing collaboration between US law enforcement agencies and Israeli trainers. Amnesty also reveals how the police and military in Israel have been involved in gross violations and abuse of, and you can see what else it says there. Have to be careful with wording, because I was talking about those folks in the last session, and yeah, they really try to bury that video. But anyway, it goes on to say that with whom are many U.S. police departments training? With a chronic human rights violator. Those folks. When the U.S. Department of Justice published a report that documented widespread constitutional violations, discriminatory enforcement, and culture of retaliation within the Baltimore Police Department, there was rightly a general reaction of outrage. But what hasn't received as much attention is where Baltimore police received training on crowd control, use of force, and surveillance. Their national police, military, and intelligence services is where it came from. So Baltimore law enforcement officials, along with hundreds of others from Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington State, as well as the DC Capitol Police, have all traveled there for training. Thousands of others have received training from their officials here. Why? I mean, really, why? All of this is important, you all, because the plan is to consolidate the resources and information that will eventually lead to the dissolving of national sovereignty. Remember, this final beast system wants to control worldwide politics and religion. So this comes from military.com. Massey revives effort to strip NDAA Section 219, combining U.S. Israeli defense. They want to put the two together, make it one. Well, of course, you know that the amendment was blocked, right? But why was it blocked? The House Rules Committee declined to permit a vote on the amendment during its June 29th meeting. The committee controls which proposed amendments may reach the House floor, and the Massey-Connor proposal was not included among those approved for debate. So we need to talk about some things. Let's look at this from the root. It's entitled, Why Black People Are Always the Target. The hard truth. Yeah, we need some hard truth. So the writer tells us that he has been getting the same question from his Black students in his philosophy of race class. He says they see what's happening in America right now, and they're trying to make sense of it. So the question they keep asking is, what's going on? Put simply, they're asking, why are Black people always the target? Why us? And we can pause right there, family, because many of you asked the same question before you found out why. My thing is, our young people are questioning, but who's answering their questions? Let's continue reading, and you're going to see how he responded to them. So he says, he responded to this question where it seems like we can't catch a break. Slavery, Jim Crow, and even now in the year of our Lord 2026, DEI has all but been eliminated. And despite the Black Lives Matter movement, the police are still offing our people in the streets, and blatant racism is cool. So he says, well, the question is a good one. Are we cosmically cursed, as many white supremacists believe, or are we God's strongest soldiers? And that is why he keeps sending us his greatest battles? I don't presume to have all the answers to that question, but I do have one. There is no black cat crossing our paths and giving us bad luck. We are not singled out by the divine like God did Job in the Old Testament. Really, it has very little to do with us. And you know what? Some religious leaders are saying the same thing. Because that was my exact question that led to my awakening. Are we cursed? So young people are wondering about all of this, wanting to know why us? Why does it keep happening to us? And he's saying, well, it has very little to do with us at all. No, it has everything to do with us. Family, you have to talk to your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, cousins, and all who will listen about who we are. They're looking for answers, and we have the answer. So it says, anti-Blackness didn't survive for more than 400 years because it was inevitable. It endured because it was useful to the people and institutions that benefited from keeping it alive. Well, that's part of the reason, yes. It goes on to say European nations wanted to build wealth, and the easiest way they could see to do that was through slavery and colonialism. They needed to justify treating millions of Africans like animals So they invented a racial hierarchy that placed white people on top and black folks on the bottom. Slavery eventually ended. That hierarchy never really did. But since it was already built and believed by many, it became useful to those in power. Every group needs someone to look down on, someone to be beneath them. Every society needs someone to blame when things go wrong. Poverty, crime, economic hardship. Instead of confronting the people responsible for those problems, it is so much easier to just blame us. And he says, well, we were already at the bottom anyway. So that was his response. But the other part of the puzzle is who they are. The truth about who they are is just as important because it confirms the prophecies. It confirms the prophecies about the oppression of the children of Israel in the last days and why we are going to be delivered. Look at this from Daniel 12, 1 through 2. And I want you to pay attention to the phrases that say at that time, because it's talking about the last days, the times that we're living in now. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. At that time. Here's the part that we need to understand. As a people, we were subjected and oppressed. And you know what? Pastor Kelly probably was the first one that I heard say this. We're actually prisoners of war. But why? Why? Why did this happen? Because we rebelled against our king, our warrior, and our deliverer. And we cannot deliver ourselves from our situation apart from him. However, the signs are very visible that a shift is happening, and those who benefited from our plight are realizing that the tides are changing, and this is causing them to increase in their violent acts against us. As you see here, it says Michael, Israel's prince, stands up, and there will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered. Now, when you look at the empires from the book of Daniel, these beasts represent the imperial kingdoms that we've been talking about that would oppress our people. We're now in the age of the fourth beast, described as dreadful and terrible. It's the legs of iron, and that imperial empire is Rome. However, we've been talking about how Esau's seed intermingled. He intermingled with other nations and in some cases took on their identity. We certainly can see how that happened with us, right? So, who do you think our oppressors are today? Which groups? Well, it tells us in Psalm 83 that there was a confederation of nations coming together to cut us off from being a nation. Well, they put the plan in place, but look at the imperial system carrying it out. When you read Psalm 83, you're reading the prayer of Asaph, calling on the Most High to act against the coalition of nations coming against Israel. Family, we need divine intervention. We can't deliver ourselves from this. Look at this from the Washington Informant. It's entitled Persistent Threat. 2 years after Buffalo Massacre, hate crimes targeting Black communities shows no signs of abating. Just think about that. Many of you may remember that. It's like, for what reason do you just decide you're going to go to a grocery store where our people go so that you can attack folks? Easy targets, looking for the vulnerable, those who are not aware. It says the racist murders, which self-described white supremacist Peyton Gendron carried out, shook the nation. Yet, despite pledges for change, the latest FBI data reveals a disturbing trend. Between 2020 and 2022, Black individuals were targeted in over half of reported hate crimes nationwide. But no, we don't need federal protection. We don't need hate crime laws. Do you hear any of the so-called Black representatives calling for it? How many? It says the numbers are staggering. They show hate crimes against Black youth. Yeah, just pause right there. Against Black youth have seen a relentless rise, climbing steadily over the past 3 years. From the Dollar General store tragedy in Jacksonville to the Walmart shooting in Beaver Creek, Ohio, the Black community remains under siege. Well, who's talking about this? I mean, the Democrats want you to just vote them into office, but to do what? To do what? So this was from 2020 to 2022. I'm sure that you know that the trend has gotten worse, right? Right? This comes from The Conversation. It says nearly 1 in 3 missing children in the U.S. are Black, driving Pennsylvania and other states to propose ebony alerts to ensure equal protection and public safety. Pause and think on that. The crisis of missing Black children. Our original data analysts suggest that the probability of Black children going missing is 3 times that of white children. The May 2025 Minority and Missing Report, a collaborative effort among leading law enforcement and various civil society groups, also highlighted the disproportionate number of missing Black, American Indian, and Alaska Native children. I wonder why those groups. Anything to do with melanin, you think? These disparities extend beyond reporting rates for missing children. Black children are also more vulnerable to trafficking and exploitation than white children. Structural inequalities such as poverty, housing instability, and overrepresentation in the foster care system compound their risk. So just a note here. I think I mentioned before that before we started with the teachings in about who we are, our ministry was actively engaging with local shelters in our areas. We would assist with certain things, primarily with women at first, and then the men are like, what do you have for us? So we would assist with, we'd go in and do workshop, try to educate them, and then try to assist with certain needs that they had to get them resettled, in a new home, etc. But I remember one particular case where there was this mother. We were working with another nonprofit because she was homeless, and we were trying to get her set up in a place. And she went to the shelters, and every shelter turned her away because she had a son who was 12 years old. They would not admit boys who were 12 and older. So it was either, well, you can come with your other children and find somewhere for him. How's she going to find somewhere for him? Or you just need to stay on the street. What do you think that was all about? Of course, they wanted a boy of 12 to be out there on his own, responsible for himself at 12. Okay, this kind of stuff, you all. Anyway, let's go on. Here's the question: why does it seem like church and state turn a blind eye to these things for the most part? Not all, but far too many. I'm sure that there are a few who are addressing these things, but their voices are being drowned out. The so called Black representatives should be screaming from the rooftops. They make sure that they are heard when they want to vote. Why isn't there a national spotlight on things like this? Because a lot of them are convinced that the nation is no longer racist. Tim Scott. But if you want folks to believe that all lives matter, why are our parents forced to get independent investigations done when things happen to their children? Don't we have folks that are being paid in the local community to handle these things? Isn't that their job, to do a fair and transparent investigation? You are being paid to do what? Protect one group? This information comes from the Griot. And I really don't want to cover Nolan's story because most folks are talking about what happened with him right now. Um, a lot of folks just want to know what happened. What happened? And I know that folks are looking at it from a racial perspective, and that may very well be. But I would be curious to know what he saw. Did he see something that would have implicated certain folks in high ranking positions? And the phone may have held the answers. I think more attention should be placed on the adults in the situation, like the owner of the boat. Who gave them alcohol or purchased it for them? Did he see high profile folks with other substances? Why be in such a hurry to get lawyers for the young men while his family and other friends are out searching and trying to find out what happened? How did the phone get from the boat to the house if he left it on the boat? Why would the most important samples needed to conduct an autopsy not be sent when you know the family's trying to get an independent autopsy done, or send pictures? Well, if your work is shoddy to begin with, and you know that someone else with more experience will call you out, and it will cause your work to be questioned about other cases that you ruled accidental, then yeah, you're not trying to really open yourself up to that. So I'm just interested in certain, I definitely want to know what happened. A lot of people do, but I would be curious to know how kids just clammed up and then a judge felt the need to provide cover. So I do pray that they get to the bottom of it. The family deserves to know what happened, as they said, good or bad. In my opinion, though, I would focus on the adults behind the scenes. Now, the reason I wanted us to look at this article is because it says the Nolan Wells case is reigniting conversations about other Black youth whose deaths raise questions. From unresolved cases to criminal prosecutions, here's why so many names are resurfacing online. As new details continue to emerge in the case of Nolan Xavier Wells, and you all know what happened to him. Across social media, users have been pulling other names back into the spotlight, revisiting the deaths of other Black youth and young adults that left families searching for answers, launched public outcry, or died under mysterious circumstances in predominantly non-Black spaces. So it just so happens that another young man had a similar situation, I mean, almost identical to his. And really, no one, well, the case didn't really gain traction, just ruled accidental. It's always accidental, or they offed themselves. They off themselves. All right. Gotta get myself together because sometimes I get worked up about these things. Here's the thing. We know that his case, as unfortunate as it is forcing folks to take another look at cases that seem eerily similar. The so-called Black person went with friends and never came home, but the other friends made it back without incident. But not only that, the retelling of what happened raises suspicion. Here's the thing. His parents were able to draw worldwide attention to his case. A lot of the other parents had their cases buried, and only a small number of people heard about it. But as a people, we have to pay attention to certain patterns because there seems to be an MO. You all know what that means, right? Method of operation, referring to a criminal's specific way of committing a crime. For some reason, in far too many cases, it has something to do with water or the person's in a wooded, secluded area. And this is why folks are saying, stop being the only one. What happened to this young man, Daniel Irving? We probably wouldn't have even heard about him if it wasn't for Nolan's case. Teen died of accidental drowning, autopsy finds, amid charges of evidence tampering. Imagine that. As two Texas teens face charges of evidence tampering in this boy's death, an autopsy report obtained found that the 18-year-old died of accidental drowning. Once the decedent became submerged and didn't resurface, the other two individuals, who were white, disposed of his belongings and failed to report the incident to authorities, leading to the decedent not being found for 4 days. It notes that police interviewed those individuals. Despite initial suspicions, there are no current suspicions of foul play. Okay, let's just think about that for a second. You know that folks tampered with evidence. Because of what they did, they didn't find him for 4 days. They disposed of some of his belongings. And hey, no suspicious acts there. Just move on. Nothing to see here. What happened to these young women? Oh, well, they just happened to have a rope that would be strong enough to let them off themselves. Tania Miller, 27-year-old woman, had either relocated to Miami or was on an extended stay in the city when she was found. Strange fruit. According to the local NAACP chapter and her family, her death prompted national attention after family members and community supports raised questions, especially given the timing so close to Juneteenth. On June 26th, the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office ruled it a suicide, though her family and many in the community are not accepting that. Juliana, 16 years old, and she was found, strange fruit, ruled a suicide. What happened to these two young boys, Zakevion James and Jaquavius Jones, two Georgia teens who were reported missing, found deceased on the side of the highway, July 2026, 17-year-old, just found on the side of the road. Their families have publicly expressed frustration over a lack of information from law enforcement. And while rumors have circulated throughout the local community, no suspects or arrests have been officially announced. Well, exactly how hard are they looking? That would be my question. What happened to DeMar Travion Reed, 21-year-old freshman at Delta State University in Mississippi? Mississippi. Yeah. Another one with a rope. The Mississippi State Medical Examiner. What do you think she said about his case? Oh, suicide. Ruled his death a suicide via positional hanging and noted that a preliminary examination showed no signs of physical assault or broken bones. The incident caused immediate distress on campus and sparked widespread public skepticism due to Mississippi's history of racial lynchings. And guess what? She just happens to be the same medical examiner handling Nolan's case. Yeah. Well, Mississippi Free Press says chief medical examiner may have mislabeled Black man's cause of death, experts say. This was another young man. 3 national pathologists say Mississippi's chief medical examiner should have labeled the cause of death as homicide for Damian Cameron, whose mother alleges that 2 white Rankin County deputies knelt on his back for over 20 minutes, causing him to no longer be here. But the chief medical examiner, Tracy Turner, said, oh, it was undetermined, despite his body being swollen, bloody, and bruised. But due to lack of access to information involving the circumstance, the cause and manner was classified as undetermined. Yeah. Oh boy. And she's not the only one. The one who was there before her was ousted because of alarming backlogs and concerns about his work. Stephen Haney, who was recently removed from Mississippi's list of approved pathologists. They said he has had 90 days to turn in reports on his backlog of cases. Public Safety Commissioner Steve Simpson announced the decision to remove him from the state's list on August 5th amid increased public scrutiny of his work in the aftermath of the exonerations of Innocence Project clients Kennedy Brewer and Lavon Brooks earlier in the year. And yes, folks have a right to question when they're so quick to say no foul play or the person harmed themselves, like in this young man's case. I'm still praying about the truth to come out regarding Kendrick Johnson. Folks are still questioning what really happened. The family is still asking for answers, and they're being stonewalled. the 17-year-old high school student found inside a rolled up wrestling mat in the gym. Investigators initially concluded he accidentally fell headfirst into the center of the vertical mat while trying to retrieve a shoe, got stuck, and then, because of his position, asphyxiated. His family disputed the accidental ruling, alleging that he was murdered by white classmates and that local authorities covered up the crime. So, yeah, folks should be suspicious. Rightly so. Rightly so. Investigators thought that he might have been trying to retrieve something. His family refused to believe that because they said the son had suffered blunt force trauma. Somebody hit him with something. In 2021, the case was reopened, and Sheriff Ashley Polk ultimately determined that there was no evidence of foul play. This led his parents, Kenneth and Jacqueline, announcing the $1 billion lawsuit on September 23rd, or September 2023, I'm sorry, according to reporting by 11 Alive. And they're charging a lot of folks in that lawsuit or they're saying that they basically covered up what happened to their son. There are questions. Basically, the lawsuit was dismissed by a federal judge more than 2 years later, just happened this year. And in her ruling, listen, U.S. District Judge Sarah Garrity did not deny that there were inconsistencies in the investigating of Kendrick's death. The court again expresses its concern about the inconsistencies between the various official reports on his death and plaintiff's allegations. However, she ruled that GBI was immune. How are you going to be immune when you're trying to get answers about what happened to the boy? She says she's citing the 11th Amendment per CBS. In another technicality, she said that Lowndes County had not been properly served within 90 days of the complaint being filed. A piece of evidence in the suit, a surveillance video which appeared to have been altered, was also ruled as being outside the statute of limitations. And you all wonder why we're praying for judgment. You all wonder why we're praying that everybody that's involved in these cover-ups, everybody, that they have no peace, no rest, that everything concerning them will fall apart. No prosperity, no rest, no peace. The truth has to come out. It has to come out. You can only lie for so long. The truth is going to come out. So, you all remember this one? She's the only one in the bunch. Tamala Horsford in the center. After reopening the investigation, it says new documents detail cops' bungling response to her death. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation concluded its investigation and the DA declined to press charges, but documents first reported by Rolling Stone detail more officer blunders from offensive Snapchats to questionable friendships happening. So, really, what is going on here? I believe it was some type of retreat. They're all there and they all made it home. She did not. She did not. So, no charges will be filed in the case of the 40-year-old mother of five. Of five. She was found face down in the backyard of a friend's Forsyth County home. Look, do you all not know about Forsyth County? Face down the morning after an adult sleepover party. Look, stop with the sleepovers. Sleep in your own bed. Enough of the sleepovers. But according to documents obtained by Rolling Stone, the investigation surrounding her death has continued to be muddied by scandals within the police department and unanswered questions about the toxicology report. But there's more to this case. For those who kept up with it, you probably already know about this. It says, as details of the case come out, it became clear that multiple parts of the investigation had gone wrong, working on the assumption that her death was a result of an accident and not foul play. The crime scene had not been preserved, with potential evidence contaminated and witnesses not immediately interviewed. Sounds familiar? Well, they can give you their side of the story and, oh, well, they said this is what happened, so no foul play here. We're going to believe them. When her body was sent for autopsy, only a handful of photos were taken by the medical examiner. The public speculation largely focused on someone named Jose Barrera, the boyfriend of the homeowner and the party hosts. At the time that this happened, Barrera was employed by the Solicitor General's office as a pretrial officer for the court system. But he was fired from this position after he was found to have looked up information relating to the case while on the job. Interesting. To start, Forsyth County was rife with racial tension. I mean, most people know about Forsyth. The sheriff at the time that this happened has himself faced allegations of racism and nepotism. It wasn't until a change.org petition gained more than 600,000 signatures that Freeman asked the GBI to reopen the case. Family and friends, as well as Black Lives Matter advocates, hope the GBI investigation might provide answers to the many questions left by the original inquiry. In May of 2021, they announced that the GBI had concluded their inquiry and there would not be charges filed. The GBI largely sided with Forsyth County investigators, concluding that it was caused by an accidental fall from the balcony. But that's not to say there weren't any new revelations from the GBI report. New documents obtained reveal the full results of the GBI investigation, specifically more about the two individuals who left their positions in law enforcement in the wake of her death. Imagine that. Why? But this part you all may not have heard about, and it is just absolutely disgusting, you all. 3 screenshots of a Snapchat message was sent by one of those individuals to his girlfriend, and it was obtained by the GBI. In the message sent the morning of November 4th, the one named Christian appears to joke about notifying her husband about her death. So he said this is what he's going to say. Hello, sir. I know we've never met, but I'm here to tell you that your wife and the mother of your 6 children was here, gone. And oh yes, I'm happy to report that she was really, really drunk trip, landed face down in the backyard, and I know you have fun memories. Enjoy corralling those 6 boys who now going ape. Mm. In a message from November 19th, Christian types, greetings from racist cracker. You see the word here, covering up land. How are you? He continues. It's a nice, rainy, good day for digging shallow graves by the roadside. In this context, Ralph Fernandez, the Horsford family's lawyer, believes Graves is a reference to Michelle Graves, a friend of Horsford, who's been particularly critical of the investigation. So, when interviewed by the GBI about these messages, oh, he admitted to sending them, but he said it was just sarcasm. It was just in poor taste. You all. This one still is just grievous. Do you remember this little one? Cute, cute, cute kid. 4 years old. Swim lesson. Swim lesson. You're going there for swim lessons and nobody's watching you. Nobody knows what's happening with you. But what happened? What happened? A family in Georgia, a lot of Georgia cases, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. A family in Georgia wants answers after a 4-year-old boy died during a swim lesson. Israel, pause and think on his name, and they called him Izzy, was an exuberant kid who loved the Black Panther superhero, dinosaurs, etc. He was excited and nervous for his very first swim lesson. His mom said they chose a reputable instructor named Lexi, who had taught his big sister 2 years ago. So she drove her son to his first lesson. And she was told that parents couldn't stay to watch the lesson to avoid distracting the children. I'm just saying, if you can't stay, then he's not staying. So she said she understood because she's a hairstylist. She know that children can act differently when their parents are around, but she didn't want to leave her baby. Trust your gut. Still, she waited in the car until the lesson was over. Now, according to a report reviewed by Today, Dory Scott said although he had fun at his lesson, he was reluctant to attend the second one. He didn't want to go back. And he asked, what if I drown? So she said she told the sheriff that she assured him that wouldn't happen. But as she sat in her car waiting, another parent frantically knocks on her window and says, check on your baby. She said she immediately lost it because I saw it in her eyes. She went through the gate and there's her son. She's asking what happened. And the trainer's like, I don't know. I don't know. Look, somebody would be picking you up, carrying you to the emergency room. You don't know. You don't know. What was it ruled? Accidental? It's an accident. This person had 49 years experience teaching swimming. Tim Hewson, who has 49 years experience teaching swimming, jumped into the pool to save the child, the sheriff said. She and another parent, a registered nurse who was waiting for her child's swim lesson to start. They started CPR until help arrived. So they said, we don't have a concrete narrative of what happened. The family has not filed a lawsuit, but Merritt says they are in the fact-finding phase. I think we already know what's going to happen with that, right? Here's the point of all this. Who knows for sure that in every single case, dark motives were involved? But we can certainly say that these things don't seem to happen as often when white kids are in the company of our people. And if it did, no stone would be left unturned until they got to the bottom of it. Now, for the few exceptions that may have been accidental, and I said few, as a people, we tend to be too trusting. We trust too easily. Many of us want to believe that this nation has changed. But do you have evidence of that? Forget about the talking heads they propped up in our community who want to tell us that it has. Well, look at me. Look at look at how I'm blossoming. It has changed. No, you look at the history and compare it to what's happening today and come to your own conclusion. Yes, there may be some exceptions in your inner circle because we can also look in our own community and see that some of our people should not be drawn in too soon because of past behavior. That's why you have to judge fruit. But I don't think we fully understand how carefully our enemies study us, searching for vulnerabilities that they can exploit, things that they can use to end lives and say, oh, it was an accident. So it's crucial for us to recognize these weaknesses so that we can strengthen our defenses and minimize risk. A major weakness is that they count on us being too trusting. No, you don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. If something in your gut is saying something's not right, you better stop and listen. You remember him, don't you? He ended the lives of 9 church members at Mother Emanuel in 2017. His attorneys are trying to get a motion to vacate the death sentence. And they're using or citing 18 claims as justification. Listen, he's the first person ordered to be executed for a federal hate crime. The first? Think about that. And folks are upset because Carmelo Anthony is requesting a retrial. But he's requesting one? This guy. So, what motivated his confession? Let's look at this from the Christian Science Monitor. What motivated Dylann Roof? Confession offers clues. Dylann Roof's 2-hour confession was introduced as evidence in his federal death penalty trial, offering a glimpse into the societal forces that led him to do what he did. He basically said he had to do it because Black people were offing white people every day on the streets. And what else did he say? Black men were doing what to white women? And that right there is the real motive, you all. A lot of our men are ignoring this, but that is a major issue for them right now because they know that their numbers are at the irreplaceable level. They also know that they need white women if they're going to continue to have all white children. So they are not going after her, they're going after the men. Just listen to some of these alt-right guys. This is their main issue. They talk about this all the time. They are serious about this issue right here. Listen to what one of his friends said. He said Dylann was a racist. And then he provided some key details that didn't get a lot of attention. Listen to what he said. Roof was careful in his writings to say his beliefs came just from himself, not his parents. But one of Roof's old friends suggested otherwise. This is what he said. I don't think his parents liked his decisions, the choices that he made to have black friends, said Christian Scriven, who is black. Ruth would go between partying with black friends and spewing racist diatribes to his white buddies. Ruth also believed the dubious claims that blacks were better off as slaves and are inferior at their core to whites. He compared African Americans to dogs, saying everyone feels bad when a man beats a dog, but no one is surprised when a dog bites a man. I mean, we just have to stop and really think about these things. Has this nation really changed? Think about it. This guy sat there in that church interacting with those people, knowing what he was planning to do, to people who had welcomed him. Sounds like what happened with the Native Americans. Befriend you so that you will let your guard down. Listen, that's a level of evil that most people don't understand. But this issue of interracial dating is almost like, okay, we tried to warn you all and you're not listening, so that's on you. This comes from Vice. It says, white supremacists built a website to dox interracial couples, and it's going to be hard to take down. So they're going around looking for those. On May 5th, Allison, whose real name is being withheld for her safety, received a strange DM. It was from a woman she didn't know who informed her that she was on a disturbing website that was compiling information about white women in interracial relations. Now, if they're getting information on the white women, you know doggone well they're going to track down the man that she's in a relationship with. Here's the thing. Oftentimes it's their women making moves on our men, especially the ones who are headed into successful careers. So when she went to the website, she found her name, photos, and social media handles under the label Traders. It was weird and strange and creepy, said Allison, 28. She was 28 years old, I'm sorry. So she was thinking, who takes the time to do this? The website names, shames, and effectively promotes against interracial couples and families. It's been circulated in some of the darkest corners of the internet, including in neo Nazi Discord servers and accelerationist Telegram channels. You all, I'm telling you, folks need to know that this is happening. You can keep thinking if you want that, oh, this nation has changed. You better think again. Some folks may have, but I'm telling you, their fruits already let you know. You can look at that fruit for years and years and years. But some of these, yeah. Most of you have heard about this. This comes from Atlanta Black Star. It says, what in the world? White women exposed for allegedly coaching each other on how to lock down black athletes after leaked texts go viral. I saw the video. She was basically given a master class. Several of them actually give classes to other white women on how to grab that young man. They're looking at him in high school. He's exceptional in sports, academics, those who stand out. They're already watching, planning. It says living a life of luxury is as simple as trapping a top NFL draft pick the moment he steps on campus. College age women are skipping classroom lectures for tips on how to snag prospective football and NBA stars. And they just got exposed. An online debate surfaced after alleged messages exposed what's being described as a white college student scheme to attract and keep wealthy athletes. Screenshots from an alleged text thread involving a student identified as Halen, her roommate Lexi, and Lexi's sister quickly went viral after first being shared. The jaw dropping messages instantly set the internet on fire. Eagle eyed viewers started playing detective, questioning whether the screenshots were real and if some of the responses sounded a little too calculated. But our readers are sounding off after reading the messages. So Halen's friend allegedly wanted to lock in a tall, chocolate football player, just like her sister. Deion Sanders said he would be $15 million richer if he had the advice of Brittany Renner about women who plot on pro athletes. Thought she hit the jackpot. Russell Wilson's ex wife can't escape draft day memes as fans say she fumbled a bag and the man. Fulfilling that desire is easy, but you have to play your cards right. Rule number one is the foundation to lure an athlete with a pick me mindset. He's the prize. Remember, he can change your life. You can't change his. We have to talk to our young man family. It doesn't mean they'll listen, but we can do what we can to make them aware. A lot of them think that, oh, by being with her, this is their ticket to being accepted. I found this part to be very interesting when it talked about how they intentionally, these women, provoke our women, our sisters. Listen, social media influencer Brittany Renner shared the same message with Jackson State University football players in 2021. Renner was invited by then head coach Deion Sanders to speak to the young men about the trap. She told them, naturally, if you play a sport, that's an incentive to talk to you. Everybody wants something. Even if we have our own thing going on, it's like me being with you is good because you boost my stock. I boost your stock. What does she mean? I boost your stock. You get to be with a white woman. It's that simple. So one woman online replied, and when we tell black men this, you are just a game and a come up to them, they don't want to hear none of that. Echoing one shared perspective in the comments. Another said, what in the world? The shameless tutorial is about securing wealth at all costs. And black women have taken notice. One wrote, this is not our business. If the men keep falling for it, that's on them, and that's why I never feel bad when things go south for them. Lexi's big sister also noted, dealing with cheating, don't look for it. So, in other words, don't worry about it if he's cheating, just ignore it. It's just a fling. Let it go, she said. He's the prize. Remember, he can change your life. You can't change his. She claims that black athletes' attraction to black women can be overridden by activating that Shanae in her by picking at her and let him see it. He'll ditch her quick. You all, what kind of demons? A white female IG Threads user was just as outraged by the information. She wrote, encouragement to intentionally provoke black women so their reactions can be used to reinforce stereotypes about them. That's racialized manipulation. So much, so much that we need to talk about, that we need to understand. They've basically perfected their techniques gaslighting techniques. They always want to portray our people as violent, especially, especially they gaslight when we address these types of things and issues of violence against our people. The first thing you hear them say, and some of our people tend to do it too, and it irritates me. They want to talk about, well, what about black on black crime? And that I'm just going to tell you, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, that is showing a certain level of ignorance when you say that. Well, what about black on black crime? Recognize that for what it is. It's gaslighting because it comes across as we're okay with our people harming each other. That's a lie. That is a lie. No, what we're upset about is that our people are being attacked and no one is held accountable, or when it's swept under the rug. When folks commit crimes in our community, they are arrested. And sometimes law enforcement are so excited to arrest somebody, they don't care if it's the right person. They'll arrest anybody to say they solved the case. So our folks are not getting away with it. They're not lawyering up and refusing to tell what happened. So don't let them use that argument. What about black on black crime? Because we're not sitting around saying, cheering folks like, yeah, we don't really care about our people being harmed. And what happened to Shanquella Robinson is a great example of that. Folks are still upset about that. I'm still upset about that. It was social media influencers from our community who kept that case in the spotlight, demanding justice. No one was out there saying, oh, well. No, the guilty party should be held accountable. And our people were going in on those so-called frenemies. So stop letting them get away with that. Oh, well, what about black on black crime? Why don't you all get all upset about that? No, the guilty party should be held accountable. So this comes from blacknews.com regarding the truth about white on white violence versus black on black violence. What's the truth? According to the U.S. Department of Justice and FBI crime statistics, about 80 to 85% of violent crimes involving white victims are committed by white offenders, while roughly 85 to 90% of violent crimes involving black victims are committed by black offenders. So what is it saying? The numbers are strikingly similar. The reason is simple. Most people live, work, and socialize in communities with people of their own race, which means crimes of opportunity, robberies, assault, even homicides are usually committed within that same racial group. Put plainly, crime tends to be intraracial, not interracial. Yet only the term black on black crime has been turned into a talking point. Why is that? Gaslighting. Because if we get you to stop and say, oh, well, yeah, our people are committing crimes and harming each other, then you won't want to hold them accountable for what they do and get away with it. This says you almost never hear politicians or commentators use the phrase white on white crime. This is not because it doesn't exist. It absolutely does. In fact, because white people are the majority population in the United States, well, I don't agree with that. The raw number of white on white crimes is far higher than black on black crimes. What's different is how society talks about it. White on white crime is framed as crime or domestic violence or or gang activity, while black on black crime is framed as a cultural thing. All you all do is go kill each other. That's basically what they say. This selective language is not accidental. It's part of a long history of racialized narratives that present Black communities as inherently dangerous. And you hear their talking heads out there saying that all the time. Well, Black men are the most dangerous in America. Really? Really? Stop letting them get away with that. Push back on it every time you hear it. Oh boy. Yeah, I know. I know. Heavy, heavy topic. All right, you should have been following the pattern as I was going along, but here are some tactics that you need to be aware of. Gaining trust too soon. When people are trying to do that, they're trying to test boundaries, seeking quick emotional access and friendships. Watch that. Watch it. Gaslighting, when they trivialize valid concerns or refuse to take responsibility for their actions. Negging, and I wasn't exactly familiar with this one. I had to do some serious digging into this one because I was thinking of another word for it, but this is actually a thing. It's when they use backhanded compliments or subtle put downs that seem positive at first but carry an underlying insult. Isolated location or controlled locations. They want you to leave a public or safe place to go to a second location, especially an isolated one. This is a classic control tactic. And reverse victimization. We saw that happen with this case with Nolan. They tried to manipulate the situation to portray themselves as the victim. Well, our family's receiving these violent calls, and okay, but this woman's son, this man's son, is no longer here, and your kids have the answers. They know what happened, and they're not talking. So we should feel sorry for you because. So trust your gut, family. If a situation feels off, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Pay attention. Oftentimes, the Most High is trying to warn you about danger, but we let these people make us believe that, oh, everybody's okay. They're not going to do anything to me. No, you better trust your gut. And I'm not saying it's only them, because some of our folks, you have to trust your gut around them too. I'm not saying you need to just trust every dark colored melanated person. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Oh boy, I know I covered a lot. I know. You all probably been talking about a lot too. We'll look at some of your comments to see what you've been talking about. Probably won't be able to go back to all of it, but anyway, talk to your family, talk to your friends. Don't be the only one. I'm sorry. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. They say trust, but verify. I'm saying verify first. Just say, because something has happened. There is like, we're taking off the mask type thing right now. Is like, we want you to know. We want you to know that it's on. So we can't continue walking around like we don't know what's going on, Elmer Fudd. We have to pay attention. Pay attention. You need to know who's in your children's friend group. You need to know them. And all this spend the night stuff. I don't think my grandkids ever spent the night at any of their friends' house. If I'm not mistaken, it's like, No. And if you want to play with your friends, tell them to come over here, you know. That's what I used to do with my kids. Tell them to come over here. Come and play in the backyard. I can remember when they were much younger, but we had a basketball court in the backyard. And so a lot of the boys in the neighborhood would come and they would play. And when they'd come, I'd open the window so I could hear what's going on. Yes, I did. I was that kind of parent. And one of the young men, he just started using all his profanity. I politely went on out there, listen here, I don't mind you playing, but you gonna stop all of that cussing. Oh, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. Yes, look. Mm-mm. Anyway, let's see what you all talking about. Yes, I absolutely agree. If they're hiding stuff, covering for each other, then no, no peace, no rest. Let the fire of heaven utterly destroy everything they put their hands to. No rest, no rest. Let them be exposed. Let their wickedness come upon their own heads. Mm-mm. Pray, be specific. Be specific, family. Don't throw up these, oh, y'all, please help us. No, be specific. Pray the word. Look at how David prayed about his enemies. Go back and take a look at that. It almost makes you wonder the whole truth, so help me, y'all. I'm telling you, something going on. Something has shifted. I mean, the report is saying, yeah, there has been an uptick since we started making a declaration, and all of a sudden, those folks over there, why are they suddenly interested in what's going on with the young Black men? Why? Yeah, there's something off with that. Mm-mm. Absolutely. They love preying on soft targets. Women, you got to keep your eyes open. Got to keep your eyes open. Stay vigilant. We have to call on the Most High to rise up for us and slam this judgment upon their heads. He said in his word that he would do it, and we need to cry out. Absolutely. Absolutely, sis. Council's girl. I did see that email, YouTube video that you sent to me about that weird stuff happening in China. That was pretty interesting. I don't think I got a chance to watch it all. I am talking about Hebrews here. Or signs. Not sure which signs. Let's see. He alone is our salvation, Sister Carla. So true. So true. And Brother Jerry, that's exactly what's going on. The word is telling us you need to understand what is happening. We are in those days. We are in those days. We've seen it this summer. I'm telling you, every time you turn around, it's like, but the thing is, as I said, it's forcing us to see these other things that, just never came to the light. So you see that there is a pattern here. There is a pattern. Go to the water, go to the lake. No, I pass. Go to the woods, sleep over. No, look, that's just me. You all do what you're going to do, but hey, you do you. Yeah, too many. We're seeing enough. Too much. Too much. The silence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but from the head down, it's almost like they know that they'll be protected, particularly when you have folks in these positions, that's going to cover for you. Oh, it was an accident. They barely do any type, if any type of investigation. Oh, it was an accident. Oh, they did that to themselves. You found a rope and you did that to yourself with two broken legs. And it's like, okay, well, once they've deemed it an accident, that's it. Case closed. Hmm. Oh, let's look at it. Definitely be in prayer for our children, our families, our people, our people. That is so true. If it wasn't for him, we would not have made it thus far. But we have to be vigilant. We have to be wise. Absolutely. It's spiritual warfare, Brother Harold. It's spiritual warfare. Keep them covered. I absolutely agree, sis. Yeah, I don't understand either. You know what? Because they're not forced to. They're not forced to say anything. They can just get a vote because, it's like, oh, well, you're always going to vote Democrat, so, why do we need to put any effort? Yeah, that definitely is part of this. I mean, you have to understand that that's a part of it. Yeah, Azalam, we must stop hoping this demonic system will save us. Too many still think, yeah, yeah, we already see who they're fighting for. If you can't see that, then I don't know what to say. I, I just don't know what to say. You know what? And this is the point. You don't teach your children to see the danger, so they miss out on signs, the clues, certain things they don't pick up on. So, mm, mm. Ebony alert sounds like a dog whistle cloaked as sincere and deep concern. They're at us at every turn. Absolutely, we need to continue to pray. Mm, mm, mm. The Negro Unchained. Shalom to you. You all, Sister Vita is putting the link in there for our Facebook page. We had one that got locked out of, well, basically had to take down. So we have a new one if you'd like to connect with us there as well. She's going to put the link in the chat. Yes, yes, sis. We who are awoke, pray, pray, pray. We have to cover and intercede for our brothers and sisters. We have to. We shouldn't be surprised but ashamed because this is still happening. If my people are called by my name, that's what he said. And again, the pressure is going to force a lot of them to do just that. They've been doing this back. Shirley says they've been doing that to break up the family unit. And we know that they've been at that for a long time. Long time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he fights for them. Same thing happened to me years ago in Atlanta. The shelter wouldn't take my 13-year-old special needs son. See, that is just absolutely, I don't understand that at all. I mean, we call so many different ones, and no, I don't know if that rule has changed, but that's crazy. That is crazy. Let's see. Yeah, he meant what he said. No one's going to redeem us. He has to redeem us. He's going to be the one. So we need to stop looking to these folks. They cannot save us. They cannot save us. Mm-hmm. Let's see. They've been talking about me, I believe, in Mississippi, that have never classified any young black person's debt. Real, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, no pressure to do so. No pressure to do so. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, a lot of these things are distractions. However, we don't know how long we will be here before the Most High takes us out of here. So we have to be wise, be wise in our dealings. We still have to live here. And until we're delivered, we have to be wise. They erased, I mean, too many questions, too many questions. I mean, I just, I don't understand why folks aren't forced to give answers. But if it had been our people, we already know. We already know. So, all right, family. I know I covered a lot. Hopefully, the information was helpful. I didn't want it to be overwhelming. I'm still in the series on Esau, but again, I believe that this, ties in directly to that because we need to understand that we have enemies. We have enemies. And no, I don't want you to think that just because someone looks like you that, oh, you should just automatically trust. Now, I'm definitely not saying that either. I'm saying you need to be wise. You need to use wisdom. Um, Look, I'm just saying the Most High, if we seek Him, when we seek Him about our situations, even about people, we need to rely on Him to direct our path in all things. And for me, I definitely take note or I'm careful about who's going to be in my inner circle. I'm there. I mean, I've been like that for a very, very long time. Um, it takes time with me. So some people are just like, we just met. Oh, we're going to do a stay the night or we're going on a trip. It's like, no. Mm-mm. All right. So, again, thank you all for tuning in. We're going to wrap it up there. Please share this message with any friends or family member who might benefit from it, or share the information if you don't want to share the video. And just a heads up, um, we're going to not do lives for August. We're going to do some shorts, release some shorts for August. We still have the Sunday sessions, but we won't have the lives. No fussing. No fussing allowed in the chat. No, sister. So just be aware of that. We're going to focus on some of the things that were covered early on, do some shorts for those things. And even if you're familiar with the content, I just ask that you would share it, particularly with the younger people, because they're just not with it for long videos, an hour and a half, 2 hours per se. So if you could share those, I'd really, really appreciate it. All right, family, be blessed and enjoy the rest of your week.